Comrades, friends, it is indeed an honour and a privilege for me to be asked to say a few words here today on memory of Bob Doyle. And to his family, the comrades and friends, we actually extend our sympathy to you today at the great loss of Bob Doyle. Bob had a great number of years, but like anyone else, the longer we have someone like him, the longer we want to have them around us. Bob, an IRA volunteer, socialist at heart, an internationalist, anti-racist and certainly anti-imperialist, was an inspiration to us all down through the years. And I probably come to know him in a different way to most of you, in that I was inspired by Christy Moore's song about the Spanish Civil War. When I heard the name of Charlie Donnelly, and actually then started to research back into just who Charlie Donnelly was, coming from Dungannon, and actually not having been remembered in Dungannon in any great extent. And as Mayor of the Council then, I actually started a summer school to try and revise the memory and to make the contact with Spain and to find out just exactly what went on. And we erected a memorial to Charlie Donnelly in Dungannon, and the council then actually sent a delegation to Harama. And through Eddie O'Neill, who actually brought the first delegation there to actually show us across and to walk across the battlefields of Harama, was certainly an inspiration. It was something that we had only dreamt we actually could ever do, to pick up the bits of shrapnel across the fields and through the olive groves, and to actually see the bunkers still in place, and just to realise how short a time that was since the battles were taking place there and so many people from Ireland had been killed. We learned many lessons from that, and the biggest one and the biggest inspiration that I got was whenever we met Bob Doyle in Madrid. And to listen to his address, and I had thought about it before today, and I suppose the fact that his son today recited that same speech was an inspiration to me, because there's so many links that you can actually relate it back to Ireland into present day. And the question that he asked then, as was repeated today, did my comrades die in vain, is a question I'm sure we have all asked ourselves many, many times through the different stages of conflict. And to try and resolve conflict as well, to make sure that our comrades are not forgotten about, to make sure that our comrades do not die in vain, and to make sure that their memory is the inspiration to drive us on. And so, as we walked across those fields, we were very aware of the fact that many of the bodies of those who died were still buried beneath that soil, Charlie Donnelly being one of them. And as we erected small stones and cairns to remember those, and then to go back sometime later and see them demolished again, it was very clear that fascism was not dead, that the memories were still trying to be eroded. But Bob done great work to try and make sure that his comrades were not forgotten about. In the 1994 Recovering Memory and reactivating Spain to remember its war dead, to remember the fact that so many of their comrades had died trying to defend the Republic. And coming from Ireland, the idea that we have never actually had the Republic yet. We have 26 county and partial freedom, but we have never had national independence and freedom. And coming from the north, that certainly was a signal that we actually had as a send. And it was interesting in watching Bob Doyle's speech that day and listen to, as his faint voice, and you had to listen very carefully. His voice was unclear, but the message was very clear. The message was complete. He was talking about the multinationals, the power that they have against the states, and they had more power and more buying power in many states. And it was interesting that the previous speaker said about the independent, the power that the media have, and it was one of the points that Bob again was making, that the power they have over our thinking today and the fact that they are accountable to no one was very, very important. And so his memories of what actually went on struck a chord with us coming from the north. And his clear message, a message which went back to the Civil Rights Campaign in the north, and the lines of mass mobilisation and how to bring people together, and the unity of republicanism, which is very important here in Ireland, but to actually educate on what actually has happened, to organise and to mobilise for the future. And I think that message is as clear today as it was then, that that's what we have to do if we are to fight the imperialists. Because at different times of depression, oppression seems to gain power. At different times, whenever oppression takes over, the example that they use is actually that we need the firm hand, we need to actually take over, and we need, and the present time, when you look at the way the banks have been organised and running our country, and actually to see the bailout, and yet we see so many other ordinary people who have been failed by those same banks, who have been put out of their homes and who have been thrown to the wind. We actually see that those who raped and plundered other countries in the name of trade, those who raped and plundered other countries on the lines of it, just reading a bag of coffee is actually worth more than a barrel of oil. Not to the people who grow it, but to those who actually sell it here in Dublin. And so it brings home to us that the ordinary people who put their labour into delivering are not the people who actually benefit most. And we have to turn that round, and the only way we can turn that round is to educate, to organise and to mobilise against it. And so the lessons that Bob gave us at that time, I think, are very important. One, that we actually do not allow our comrades to have died in vain, whether it be in Ireland or in Spain, that we ensure that what they had died for is actually delivered. And I was listening to, again, some of the speeches at Harama, and some of the government ministers who were present were agreeing with everything Bob had said. And the question was in my mind, well, why do we not then have the same type of republic in Spain then, now, as what we had then? And of course, the MP was able to say, but no, it's not possible to rebuild that. It is possible to rebuild it. It is possible in Ireland to build the republic that those who proclaimed the 1916 proclamation set out to do. It is possible to actually put that programme of government in place to make sure. Bob was interviewed by Michael McDonagh and Pobla some years back, and the link between republicanism and the Spanish Civil War, I think, was very clear in that, when he talked about having trained in small arms outside 44 Parnell Square, Kevenbury Hall, which is now the headquarters of Sinn Féin. And so we actually, nothing much has changed when you look at over the history of that particular building and the history of republicanism today. And so it brings home to us that we're all one if we can organise and make sure that we educate for the future, so that we mobilise the people to resist the repression.
We were going to offer the floor to a friend of Bob's from Madrid, Seve Montero, if he's willing to say a few words. He hasn't got a script written. We thought he had. Seve, come on and give us a few words.
I think Harry is a traitor, because he has not said me that I was going to speak. Well, but this is an honor to me to speak to you, because, well, we formed this kind of joint venture, Bob and me, in order to maintain the memory of the international brigades. Rather than that, to maintain the values, the ideals, the idea and the ideals they fight for. So this is our concern now, our responsibility, our duty to spread these ideals and to fight in the way they taught us, with the union. Many of the speakers before me have taught us what was the message of Bob, but I think the best message is to continue the fight. So, la lucha continúa.